Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for an interesting discussion on AI agents in action. My name is Alina Revelis. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AI Future Leaders, a company focused on AI education. And we are speaking today with Nitin Kumar, Director of Data Science and AI from the Marriott International. So welcome, Nitin. It's great to have you.
Oh, I think pleasure is all mine, and I'm really excited for this because there's a lot to cover and then a lot to learn and a lot to talk.
Let's see. So a little bit about our guest. Nitin is a director of data science at the Marriott International. He blends over 20 years of experience. Can you imagine? In AI leadership with curiosity, he creates enterprise scale generative AI applications, graph solutions, intelligent assistants, optimization, experiences for customers. As you can imagine, many of you may have stayed at the Marriott hotels or sister hotels of the Marriott chain. I myself am a customer. I love the hotels. It's amazing. Can you imagine how much goes behind the scenes of the Marriott to understand all of that customer data and to improve that customer experience? So welcome. If you want to add a few more points.
Thank you. Thank you, Elena. Yeah, I think I kind of dated myself by saying 20 years of experience. So I kind of started my career with civil CRM and then did various roles throughout my career and then kind of gained experience. And in the last couple of years, me and my team are extensively working on how we can actually use generative AI to solve the business problems across the board. So it could be related to the sales team, marketing team, legal team, customer care. And if you are in Dallas region, so I'm based out of Dallas, Texas. So if you are here, ping me, reach me out. We can have a cup of coffee or just discuss about AI or in general anything, right? So I'm really passionate about this generative AI technology because I see it has a great potential to actually solve some of the problems which the traditional data science or the traditional methods were not able to do it. For example, related to anything with the text data, image data, voice data, right? So I am a strong believer that we are in an age where the technology can definitely help reduce a lot of friction, and it kind of empowers the people to actually focus on things which are really important and kind of improve the customer experience for you and your customers.
For sure. I myself have also been in this field for over 20 years, and we leverage data science and AI, machine learning, to understand the customer, to understand the product, to model, to build predictive models, and we can solve a lot of interesting problems out there and to improve our customers' experiences, basically, and relationship. And so yes, a little bit about AI Future Leaders. We are an AI education company, curriculum solutions. We provide training for teachers. We also help inform AI curriculum for K-12 and university, because these days AI education is something that's becoming foundational, and it's becoming now something that everybody needs to have. As you know, the US made AI education mandatory in schools as early as grade 1, China as well. Canada, we are following, I myself am based in Toronto in Canada. We are also following this trend with AI education. And we believe that AI education is something that's very much important. And it's a field where we feel passionate that we can contribute and add. But the world of AI is changing. How we work is changing. I grabbed the statistic, just recently, but it's many organizations are now using AI in at least one business function, most likely even more. So 78% of organizations are reporting that they're using AI. And AI is creating jobs. Yes, we have got new interesting jobs now, such as AI engineers, machine learning engineers, right? We have got those that are building AI agents, which is what we are going to be speaking on. And what's interesting is that these AI agents are also automating tasks. And 40% of employers are actually expecting to cut roles. And soon, because of these AI agents and automation of these workflows. So just to frame it a tiny bit, and I know Nitin, you also have got slides for you to share. So I'll also share a couple slides just to frame it. Many of us, some of us know exactly what are AI agents and we are building them, but some individuals are just not aware what is this hype about and what's exactly it's happening here. So an AI agents, you can think about it as a piece of software. Maybe a piece of software that does something. It tends to have access to large language models, and it's an autonomous system. It might be performing certain tasks independently. It might be talking to other AI agents. But the idea here is that you don't necessarily have got the human in there. You have got now an AI autonomous piece that's running, making decision. And it could be something like, I'm an agent and my role is to write code. And there might be another agent to validate the code that this first agent wrote. And there might be more agents to plug it in or trigger something down the line. So these agents combine reasoning, planning, memory. They tend to have a task. Many of them, I'm sure you know, right? They're goal-oriented or task-oriented. And unlike classic chatbots that where you put a prompt and something comes back, these agents might be chit-chatting to each other and taking proactive. So I'll show you just a visual. So an agent might have a core, it might have module, it might have a planning module, it might have some reasoning on it, it might have access to different tools, such as APIs, access to other systems, it might have access to large language models. And Nitin, do tell me when you have got your slides and to start sharing. Okay.
Okay, sure. Let me share my slides. Oh, 1 second, sorry.
So we have got interesting discussion for you today around the application of AI agents across the service industry, within the customer applications. And there are many interesting applications that we have got working on.
Are you guys able to see my screen in a slide mode or just the presentation mode?
I think you should go into presentation mode.
How about now?
1 second. Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I think let's talk about the AI agents in the customer support. So I remember like when I started my career with Sibyl CRM, we kind of supports the customer care group where we create tickets and then someone has to manually go through each of those cases to do the analysis of that. And then since from there a lot of things have changed, right? So for example, recently in the last couple of years, you kind of have the traditional chatbot. So I would always think of that as a vending machine. So if you've been to any vending machine where you have a predefined set of options to choose from, and then once you press those buttons, you kind of get the specific, either a water bottle or a soda, right? So what it means basically is that though the options there are using the traditional chatbots are very limited because they kind of work through a predefined scripts, or those are very limited, FAQ style interactions, and then it kind of also very pre-programmed responses. Now, moving back now in the recent way, we are talking about the AI agents, right? So AI agents are more of thinking like a Michelin star chef who can actually create or prepare multiple dishes based on your requirements. So think of the AI agents are like that because they have a autonomous reasoning. They are actually a goal oriented, and then they can actually break down a complex task into smaller chunks, and it kind of depends on how you kind of have frame or set up the architecture of those agents. And then the most important part is it actually kind of integrates, it have the tools which you can actually integrate and be able to call those. Now, think about like I'll take a step back and see, okay, what is the difference between say LLM versus an agent, right? Because ultimately down the line, agent does use the LLM to make the reasoning, right? So to me, the main difference is the context, which means that when an LLM is making a call, it kind of have the context of the conversation as well as the understanding of what's happening around the environment. And because of that, it kind of be able to make a better judgment and be able to be able to solve more complex tasks as well. So if you just look under the hood, the agent, it does have a reasoning LLM. It has a RAG solution, which is nothing but a retrieval augmented generation, which means basically it kind of have a knowledge source. Because if let's think about this, right, that if a customer asks a specific thing like what is the status of my order, so it can actually go into the necessary system, find the relevant information, and then be able to provide that. So it could be a rack solution to that. And then it can actually make calls to the different systems like a CRM system or internet, or do a research for you. And then it has the safety layers and observability to actually understand, from a monitoring perspective, logging like what's happening under the agents, right? So that you can actually be able to make the right direction, so that in the sense that when the I mean, building the agents is easy, but actually productionizing is a challenging task, right? Because when an agent is doing the reasoning, it's hard to you can actually program it, right? So that means through observability, logging of everything is kind of help you to see where the agent or the LLM is not performing, and then you'll be able to
Yeah.
course correct on that.
And when you have multiple agents
Yes.
and each agent has got access to a large language model, its observability becomes a big challenge, because now you need to make sure that they're doing things correctly. And many of you know that when you're using large language models, they tend to hallucinate. It's not 100%. There is always a small probability that they will produce a response that's maybe not 100% correct, or maybe even something incorrect. So if you've got an agent that is performing a task and leveraging a large language model, there is a small degree of error that might happen there, or hallucination. And let's say you have another agent and another agent. Imagine 100 agents, each with the ability to produce errors. I mean, now you're making this problem even larger, even bigger, right?
Yes,
So observability,
absolutely.
that's a big thing.
Yes. And the beauty of this agentic solution is this, right? Because you're trying to get a deterministic solution from a non-deterministic system. Because LLMs like Elena you're mentioning, right? Those are kind of a prediction machine, right? It kind of uses the context and then kind of predicting the next word, and kind of goes on and on that. So expecting a deterministic solution from a non-deterministic solution, it's challenging. And as you're saying, the more agents you have, the complex it becomes. Because think about this, right, that
Mhm.
if you are using 4 different agents, right? And then one agent accidentally put in a wrong context, and that context will propagate for all the other agents, and then it kind of take you away from the actual goal you kind of have initially set through, right? So it's a very hard problem to solve through. Now, from a customer case perspective, right, there could be a lot of use cases that you can actually go for. Maybe, and in the next few slides, I'll talk about how should you actually approach those. So it could be either a self-service where you can have a chatbot which kind of talk to the customers, making all of these calls to the different backend systems, or it could be a proactive notification which kind of triggers that agent to alert the customers for anything about their outages or their delays. And then it could also be a knowledge retrieval, like I was mentioning, RAG-based solution, which kind of, let's say if you have an FAQ, or maybe take an example of Marriott property, right? So if a customer comes to us and say, hey, what, whether this property allow pet or not, and what would be the pet fees for that. So that means you can actually based on the customer query, you can actually search and retrieve the right property, and based on that you kind of be able to answer in a specific tone, because a lot of time the like when we talking about Marriott, you have to have a brand voice as well, so you kind of have to enforce on that as well. And then it could also help for workflow automation, which could be triage, or the escalation, or the follow-ups, right? Now, everybody is excited about the agentic solution, but not every agentic solution is seeing the light in production, right? So a lot of people are really excited. They want to implement the agentic solution, and a lot of companies are actually heavily investing on an annual basis into their infrastructure, because it's not very straightforward that you can just plug and play and use your traditional infrastructure to build that, because it could require, a shared memory. It could require an LLM. It could require, a vector DB. So there could be a lot of moving parts that you have to invest on to actually make it a robust solution to it. And then, but once you're implementing all of those, right, there is no guarantee that it's going to get, work, because that's the,
Yeah.
the problem of the system is, right? So a lot of projects are actually not seeing the light because of, I'll cover some of those, pitfalls in the subsequent slides. And then definitely it does require a lot of stack upgrades. Now, what
Yeah.
kind of stack, sorry, go ahead, Elena.
No, what you just mentioned, my team is actually building AI agents, right? We just built a couple more agents, and the business just asked me a question. Well, what about the cost? The cost on the LLM is very small, but there's other costs. Just to run these agents, you need to monitor, you need to make sure that they're doing what they're doing. And in my case, we have got a couple agents that are generating content. In particular, they're generating content, emails, marketing, customized emails. And another agent comes in and then challenges the first agent and validates. And the other agents that we're working on are translation. So producing this content, but in other languages. We do have a human in the loop where the human does come in and verify everything before it goes out anywhere. But managing these agents is becoming quite a task, because now you need to make sure that they're running smoothly. They're connecting to the right large language models. Many of them have got access to certain APIs or downstream systems, and it becomes a very complicated, solution to run. And it sounds like, well, AI is cheap, but actually, when you start factoring that infrastructure and the cost and the resources to maintain all of that, it's no longer a cheap solution. It becomes a very complicated solution. And And now we are thinking, does it make sense even for the business to do such a thing?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's not like, build and like fire and forget, right? Once you have built this, you have to constantly monitor the system because it could be a data drift, it could be a concept drift, it could be any other, like even the new models, right? They may not be able to perform as good as the previous model. So you have to constantly evaluate your systems in a way to make sure that the system that you have built is working up to the standards the customer is looking for. And then the pressure is more when the agentic solution that you have built is customer facing, because then there is a lot of things at stake, right? Your reputation, your brand, everything is at stake, like because if you made one mistake, people will remember that rather than how good they have they have the experience in the past.
Yeah, the bar is much higher.
Yes.
Imagine this example. You have got self-driving cars. If a
Mhm.
self-driving car makes one mistake, we are going to hear all about it, and it's going to be a big thing. When a human gets into a car accident, God forbid, I mean, we don't react that much because, that's a human. But on a
Yeah.
machine, on an AI agent, the bar is set much higher.
Yes, absolutely. And I always feel like we kind of forget that, right? Like people also make mistakes, right? When they kind of learn, right? So I mean, you should like when you're actually working with this kind of technology, which has a great potential, we should be a little lenient. I understand, the consequences, but and the guardrails. So that's why I think putting the guardrails is quite important on that, or maybe have a human in the loop so that you kind of minimize that risk when you are actually building or implementing those. And you have to think those through right from the beginning itself. You cannot just say, oh, I have built the product, let me see what other guardrails I can put on. No. When you are actually thinking about something building, you have to start with the guardrails, like, where it could go wrong or how you can actually keep a control of it. So it could be like I was mentioning, issues like the tech stack. Challenges could be a compliance, or it could be the infrastructure. Like Elena, you were mentioning about the vector DB, the memory, the context. How are you going to orchestrate multiple agents? How are they going to communicate? What would be the fallback strategy? So there could be a lot of things that you have to build around the system to make it work. And I think the monitoring and observability is the key for all of this. And then these timelining which I just put is kind of based. I mean, it kind of depends on the company and the skill set and and the rigor to implement. But on average, if you're talking about like if you're building it right from the scratch, it may take a couple of months to actually have the infrastructure set up and planned, and then getting the data and the right quality of the data is, I think, also a challenge, right? Because I always feel like everybody talks about data science, but nobody talks about the quality of the data or the data engineering in itself, right? Because that's like the key component of all your analysis, right? If your data is bad, you can't do anything about it, right? So you have to focus on the data integrations, security, and then you building the agentic solution, and then you kind of see how it works, and then you kind of iterate quickly on top of that. So I like like Anila, you in the beginning was mentioning about there were like around 40% of the jobs will get displaced. I personally feel that we should not think these agentic or human interactions as a replacement. It should be more of an augmentation, right? Because think about this, right? The AI is very good with the speed and executing the task at scale, but humans are very good with empathy and the judgment. So I think we should collaborate those two superpowers, the AI and the humans, to get a more faster, empathetic solution, so that you can able to solve or be able to help your customers through that. And then from an agentic solution perspective, they can actually do a lot of mundane tasks, or the task which takes longer time but more on a repetitive fashion. For example, data gathering, context building, classification, routine, task execution, pattern recognition. So all of those things could be actually done by an agent, because they can process a lot of data at scale and at a very fast pace, which the human cannot. So we should use where the technology where we can, and then complement with humans to actually make it a more rigorous and better solution for our end customers to serve. So now from a like once you have that, like there are a couple of things you can actually implement through. For example, few of my friends in other companies, they kind of have seen by implementing an agentic solution for deflection, which is like when a customer calls, you understand what the problem is, and then based on that, if there is a self-service to like solution you can provide, you kind of deflect that. They were able to reduce the that error rate to around 30 to 60%. Their average time handle time kind of reduced to 40 to 70%, like depending on the complexity and the volume. You can actually, a lot of companies are using nowadays the agentic solution to upsell and cross sell, where you kind of understand the context the customer is in with the agent or with the associate. And then once you understand that context, the LLM or the agent can actually guide you whether, okay, hey, this is the right time to slide this offer maybe, or, maybe ask them to do something, focus on something other as well. So upsell, cross sell, and then obviously since these agents are good, they can actually be available 24 cross 7, which means you have a better coverage. But the drawback of that would be that your infrastructure has to be robust, that it kind of be able to execute 24 cross 7 availability as well. So, like you were mentioning earlier, right? It's not just the LLM, right? You have the model fees, you have to have the infrastructure where your
Yeah.
code, your processes are executing. Then you have to have a guardrails and safety, your evaluation, your change management. So there are a lot of pieces that you have to have before you can actually start thinking about the agentic. So you have to focus on those agentic solution, like infrastructure first, and then move on to that. And then
Yeah.
if you
Many
really
companies,
wants to.
they don't
Hmm?
realize this is they think because it's so easy to build them, you
Oh
can
yes,
build an agent in just maybe a couple of hours.
yes,
But to do it safely with the right infrastructure and to have the right APIs, calling the right models, monitoring those APIs, monitoring the models, monitoring the output, having those guardrails and that safety, especially you keep mentioning customer. So when you're talking customer, there's personally identifiable information.
absolutely.
And for you, because you're international, you need to be concerned with all the different regulations like the GDPR.
Mhm.
In Europe, you've got the AIDA Act we have got in Canada. You have got different regulations based on different regions. And to do this properly, you need to be compliant. Your data needs to be compliant and the safety has to be there. And many companies don't realize that if you're plugging in a new process or a new system, you need to have that change management piece. And
Mhm.
it's something that's not always obvious and something that often is ignored.
Yes.
And there are statistics about AI coming and replacing jobs or taking over certain tasks and maybe generating jobs. But at the same time, majority of these AI experiments, they don't really, get going. Many of them fail. Many companies fail with these agentic or just AI applications because they don't have the right infrastructure
Yes.
or the guardrails, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. And they may just feel like, it's easy to build. And, when you're building the POC, the results are good. But when you are actually blowing it out into the production, everything fails, right? Because there are like, there could be, people who kind of wants to break your system and make a, look your brand bad as well, right? So you have to have those guardrails in place to kind of, and that requires a lot of time and experimentation for that. Now, if you really like, one of the things that I would like you to carry after this session is that don't just blow everything and say, oh, I want to solve the world hunger problem through the agentic solution. Always start with maybe one or two simple use cases which you think can be solved through agentic, right? Do a due diligence on that. Like for example, maybe have a like a chatbot for your internal users before exposing it to your customers. Start a very small agentic, maybe not even like a multi-agent solution, just maybe start with one agent and see how it works. Try to see whether it's adding a value to it or not, and then once you have that, then start slowly adding more agents to it, and then understand the ROI, the benefits and all of that. And then once you are expanding it, then add multi-agents as well as the guardrails and everything as well along with that. So start small and then ramp up, rather than just have hundreds of agent and then scratch your head on, oh, how to manage all of those as well. Okay, so now, so this is what I was talking about, right? Like the empty patterns to avoid. Let's not automate everything, right? You have to focus, start with something small and then kind of go big. And then other could be, let's say when you are building the RAG solution, which is basically, trying to educate the LLM with the knowledge which the LLM does not have, because it could be either it's more recent, or it could be that your company is kind of is a proprietary information which you kind of supplement through the RAG solution. So always, because these LLM agents, they kind of hallucinate a lot. Not a lot, like it's kind of getting a better. So whenever you're implementing those RAG solutions, so always validate the answers that you're getting through either the citations or using the metadata to filter out. So always have that check to make sure the responses you're getting is does not contain any hallucinated or falsifying information. And then always evaluate the responses, have a red teaming of the of the solution that you're building, so that you kind of ensure that it kind of covers a lot of grounds, and all of your test cases should kind of focuses on the variety as well as the depth as well, like multiple scenarios, and kind of going into multiple level deep
Mhm.
as well. Yeah, sorry, maybe you like to add anything?
No, I was just thinking about the different use cases. So you have got ideas around password resets or billing. Those are high frequency use cases. I
Mhm.
just gave you a use case where maybe customer follow up. So let's say a customer stayed at the hotel or enjoyed something, and then you can trigger communication. You can trigger maybe an email saying, thank you so much, or you try to sell another product or cross sell, or just say thank you to the customers, because
Mhm.
you might have premium customers, valuable, your potential customers.
Mhm.
And that's an interesting use case. But billing, that's also an interesting one, because that's something that's very high frequency that potentially you could automate. And
Mhm.
not everything should be done with AI as well. Um,
Absolutely.
Maybe your agent triggers a password reset, but maybe it doesn't talk to a large language model necessarily, right? You don't
Yes.
always need an AI component in it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes. Yes. And I think, like, to your point, right? Like whenever you are building the agentic solution, right? And since you're providing or associating these multiple tools to the agent, you always have to ensure that you kind of provide that agent access to minimum, so that it does not have access to everything, and it kind of a very very controlled access they have of the specific tools, because you never want the LLM to have all the sensitive information of your company, and then of the jailbreaking, it kind of provides everything to the whole world, right? So always make a very restrictive access to the different tools so that the agent accidentally may not share that information. And then you always have to check the like the PI information as well, that it should, like, whenever you are inputting anything to the LLM or the agent, and then when you are getting the response back, it should not contain any sensitive information which kind of creates a problem for you. And then, like, there could be legal risk or customer trust issues, so always specify. I think that's, I think, getting common these days. Like, a lot of websites you'll see, they may say that the content is generated from LLM. So always make sure that, as per the countries or the continents you are working with, you kind of follow those regulations, because some countries does require those things. So that you should disclose that whether you kind of using the AI or not. And then last but not the least, which is like, it's not like set it and forget it, or the fire and forget. You have to constantly monitor the agentic solutions, so that it does not have either a model drift or outdated knowledge, or it's kind of degrading the performance. So you have to constantly evaluate that your system is working up to the standards of that. So the final thoughts, I would say, assume the AI agents, those are not the only reason. Like a chatbot you kind of build up, it can solve a lot of other problems. It can solve, for example, you kind of have an agent which kind of monitors a mailbox. It can actually, once an email comes in, it kind of do multiple, like another agent which kind of summarize it, do the sentiment of that email, and then it kind of, the third agent could be that once it identify the list of issues in that email, it kind of goes into the knowledge base database or knowledge management to see what it can answer. And then the last one could actually aggregate everything and compose an email which the agent can actually the associate can update on that. Infrastructure, you have to focus on that, because a lot of project fails because they don't have either the skill set or the infrastructure, or both. So always remember to actually focus on the infrastructure as well. And then always start with one use case before just trying to solve all the problems in your company. Be very, very specific. Choose a problem which is repetitive, high frequency, or it could be with some which has some degree of variability to it. And then plan for humans. Like, augmentation always beats replacement, right? So what it means is that you kind of build an agent which kind of takes a low risk task and kind of execute end to end. But if there is some unclarity or some degree of threshold that you can actually set, it kind of invokes a task for the human to actually go and evaluate. So it's more like a threshold base, where if it meets a certain threshold, it kind of goes through the system automatically. If not, make sure the human is in the loop. And then the final thought, I would say that agents, like, they people think it's in the future thing, but I would say it's not in the future. It's the present. And the winner of this would be, like, not only the person who is building the agent, but who is deploying them right, which has the proper guardrails, the checks and balances. Those people would be able to win in the end as well.
For sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. These are excellent closing thoughts. Nitin is sharing with us a QR code if you would like to follow him on LinkedIn. And you can also send us a message. And we're actually going to be opening it up for questions and answers at this time. So put your questions in the chat. Do put your questions